Hello Brick Sculptors and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. I have an exciting new video here for you today. We're going to talk about something I've wanted to cover for a long time. We're going to talk about Lego minifig scale. So I have a suspicion that minifigs are surprisingly short and wide. And today we're going to find out if that's true. So before doing this video, I did some research on the internet. And also keep in mind, all these measurements are going to be approximations. We're just trying to kind of prove a point here. This isn't very scientific. I'm not very good at math, so I apologize. But I think this will still prove a point nonetheless. So I did some research online here and just looked up the average height and shoulder width for humans worldwide. So we're going to do male and female. And what the internet told me was the average human male worldwide is 5 foot 7.5 inches. And sorry for my European viewers, this is all going to be in English. It proves the point just the same, but that's what I work in, sorry. In inches, that's 67.5 inches. The average shoulder width of a human male is roughly 16 to 17 inches. So we're going to just call that 16.5 inches. The female average height worldwide comes out to 5'3", which is 63 inches, and shoulder width of roughly 14 inches. Now, what do we do with this information? We can put this into a ratio. So if we divide our height by our width, we can see how many times taller we are than wide, as far as shoulder width at least. If we do that math, our male ratio comes out to 4.09 to 1, meaning that the average male in the world is roughly four times as tall as they are wide. Females come out to more of 4.5 to 1. Meaning the average female human is about 4.5 times taller than wide. Females tend to have a little bit narrower shoulders, relative to their height at least. Now let's go ahead and look at some Lego proportions here. So we'll get Rick out here with our digital caliper, and I'm going to take your hair off, Rick, sorry. Now, to give Rick the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to measure to the top of the stud. You could probably make the argument that I should measure the top of the head, but he needs all the height he can get. So let's go to the top of the stud. So I guess if you were going to run him bald, he would have that extra height. And this comes out to 1.58 inches. And let's go ahead and check his shoulder width. This is going to be a little more subjective because you kind of have to feel for where you're going to be able to call this a shoulder. But we'll just kind of guess. Again, this is just to prove a point. It doesn't have to be super exact. We're going to call that 0.67 inches. Now, obviously in human we have male and female. In minifig, they're the exact same size. So there really is not going to be a difference there when talking minifigs. Now you might say, well, there are kids. And that is true. Unfortunately, when Lego developed the kid, they used the same torso, just shorter legs. So their proportions are even worse. They also have babies, which are adorable. And honestly, the proportions are probably better on those, but I'm not going to measure those today. We're just going to stick to the standard classic minifig. Now, I do want to cover, however, a newer variation of the minifig, the Lego Friend. And the Friends came out a lot more recently. I don't know the exact date, but I would say probably 10 to 15 years of Lego Friends. And their proportions are, I believe, more realistic. They are taller, and they have much narrower shoulders than a traditional minifig. So we're going to measure her up as well and get some measurements for her to see how she stacks up to the typical minifig. Again, we're going to the top of the stud. We're going to put her at 1.77 inches. And her shoulder width, we're going to call that 0.46 inches. Alright guys, you can put your hair back on now. I don't want to embarrass you too bad. So if we do the ratio on our Lego figures now, our minifig comes out to a ratio of 2.35 to 1. Our Lego friend comes out to 3.84 to 1. So the friend is a lot closer to an actual human being. The minifig, as suspected, is much shorter than an actual human relative to their shoulder width. So you can see a minifig is only basically 2 1/3 times as tall as they are wide, where a typical human 4 to 4.5 times as tall as they are wide. So yes, my suspicion is correct. They are short and they are wide. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, it really doesn't. I mean, Lego was developed as a toy, and this might be a point of debate, but it is still a toy. But over the years, Lego has developed so much to be more of almost a model, a building medium, and people are building more and more and more realistic things. And what you're going to find if you're building MOCs is this scale is going to affect your MOCs. Building things around this scale can be tricky because your buildings, your vehicles, especially vehicles, are going to be skewed based on the size of the minifig. Now, we base most of our Lego buildings off of one height, at least I do, and that is the door height. You know, if you're going to build a building, you have to build it to basically look right with that size door. And that size door is really based on minifig height. Now, if you've been doing this for a long time like I have, you might be familiar with this door size as well. Doors used to be 5 tall by 4 wide, and they've switched to more of a 6 tall by 4 wide over the years. And you can see the minifig next to them. This one almost looks too tall. This one almost looks too short. So I think the right answer probably minifig-wise is somewhere in between those two. But let's go ahead and measure these up and compare them to a real-life door and see how it comes out. Again, I did some homework on this before shooting the video. And a door in the real world typically measures, at least in the US, at 80 inches. Which is 6 foot 8 inches. In width, for an exterior door and some interior doors, 36 inches. Some interior doors are narrower, but we're going to use an exterior door because this is going to be most commonly used as an exterior door in Lego. Obviously, there's really only one door width. There are 3 wide doors, but those are incredibly narrow, and they're more for vehicles and cabinets and things like that. So we're going to use 80 inches and 36 as our real-world door. And that gives us a ratio of 2.22 to 1. So a standard door is 2 and roughly 1/4 times taller than it is wide. Well, let's go ahead and measure up these doors and see how they stack up. So first, let's do the old school door here. Our height on the door, 1.78. And our width, we'll call that 1.26. If we go to our newer style door, the height of this door, 2.26 inches. And the width, 1.25 inches. If we put these into ratios, the old school door is 1.41 times as tall as it is wide, and the newer door is 1.8 times as tall as it is wide. So if you look at these, a typical door, 2.22 times as tall as wide, and the newer door 1.8. The old one is way off. But why are these heights so much different than a standard door? Well, because a minifig proportions are so much different than a human proportions. So you can see how this would affect your mock building. If you're trying to build an ultra-realistic model of a building that actually exists in real life, this is going to throw things off, and it's going to make the building difficult to make it look as similar as possible to a real building. So something to keep in mind. One of the biggest problems with Lego is cars, and I'm sure you guys have encountered this if you've done anything with Lego cars. But let's go ahead and talk about the relation of a regular, real-life vehicle to a Lego vehicle. Now, in my internet research, I just searched for a basic mid-size sedan, and I got a size of average of 14 feet length by 6.5 feet wide. That comes to a ratio of 2.15 to 1, meaning that an average sedan is roughly 2.15 times longer than it is wide. Well, as you guys probably know, there's a lot of debate in the Lego world about what size a vehicle should be. If you've been doing this for a long time, you're probably familiar with vehicles more this size, because this is how Lego used to build them. Everything was 4 wide. They were based on 4 wide windshields, wheels, and axles that are made for 4 wide vehicles. And it does look small next to a minifig, but not horrible. Now this maybe you wouldn't call a mid-size sedan, but again, we're just trying to prove a point here. So that's kind of an old school vehicle. I made it out of kind of a new school color, but that's okay. Let's look at a really modern vehicle. This is a current Lego set you can buy in stores right now, the electric car. And proportion-wise, I think it looks a lot better. This is a 6 wide vehicle, this is a 4 wide vehicle. But one thing is really off. If you look at this vehicle in proportion to a minifig, it looks pretty big. So let's go ahead and measure up these two vehicles to see how they size up in comparison to a normal mid-size sedan. First, we'll start with our 4 wide car. And our length comes out to 3.44 inches. And our width, 1.5 inches. And then our 6 wide sedan. At 4.88 inches. And we have a width of 2.18 inches. The ratios on these two are going to be 2.75 to 1 and 2.33 to 1. So that means this vehicle is 2 3/4 times as long as it is wide, and the 6 wide vehicle is 2 1/3 times as long as it is wide, which is actually pretty darn similar to the numbers we got for our mid-size sedan. So vehicles are always a problem, especially because of how they stack up to a minifig. And as you probably know, it's really hard to put 4 minifigs in a vehicle because they're just too wide. You can really, in either of these vehicles, regardless of the width, only hold 1 minifig. Now he looks quite small in this, and this vehicle looks too big for him to sit in the middle of this. But that is a common problem with Lego vehicles. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, please leave them below. If I missed anything, please let me know below. And we'll be doing more like this. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And we will see you next time.